In this week's episode of Superhero Saturday, we're diving into the world of superhero naming conventions. Secret identities, pseudonyms, cryptonyms, nom de plumes, you name it. We're examining every convention I can find from Amazo to Zatanna. Let's get into it! Hello super friends and welcome back to another episode of Superhero Saturday, where we talk about the arts of superheroes, storytelling, and so much more. My name is Annie, but I do go by a few different names as well, including Super Annie, One Woman Army, Annie Banani, anyway, and you might too. It's just one of those things that we fans of superhero characters like to do, because having a secret name is so cool. We just want to pick one out for ourselves. So if you're looking for a name for yourself or your own original characters, then it's time to take notes, because today we are talking about the different naming conventions for superhero genre fiction. This video will help you come up with some iconic, memorable names for you and your characters. So with that out of the way, let's get started. The first category that we have for superhero names is secret identity names. When your super character wants to hide their alter ego from the world and use a common name to describe themselves, or if they were born with a common name, then this is the category that we're looking at. As far as naming theories go, there are a ton of them out there. A lot of content creators pick them at random. Others find names that represent different historical things that they want to incorporate into the theme of their story, and still others have very specific hang-ups on certain types of names, and they pick them with as much care as they would pick a name for their newborn child. But there are a few patterns in the superhero genre community that can be followed or can be ignored. The first one, and probably the most iconic, is the use of alliteration and assonance, and that is using names that have the first name and the last name start with the same letter, or the same sound. Examples of this include Clark Kent, Peter Parker, Lex Luthor, Billy Batson, Cannonball Cooper, Haley Hendricks. Those are mine. I actually do this pretty exclusively for my superhero characters, so if you see a name in any of my works that has the same first name and last name letter the same, then you can pretty much guarantee that that person is probably a superhero. Another way that you can name your character's secret identities is to use names or phrases that mean something significant or have some kind of connection with your story or the theme that you're going with your whole concept. This can be either subtle or very, very obvious. For example, the character Hero from the TV show Heroes. And the reason he was named Hero was, fit with the show of having these superpowered characters who might become heroes. And hero with an I, hero with an E. It makes sense. You can be a little bit more subtle for that, and for me personally, I did the same kind of thing with the main character of my first book, Stronger, which the main character's name is Haley, that comes from a Norse word meaning hero. It's a little bit different, just a little bit less obvious, so if you really wanted to dig in, you could and find little nuggets of, secret treasure in the books, but you really don't have to be that obvious. Yes, I do all the cringy things too, believe me. One of the other things that you can do to incorporate some kind of theme or thought into the secret identity name for your character is to just have something that's thematically appropriate for whatever concept you're going for. For example, Wonder Woman's secret identity name is Diana Prince, which makes sense because she is Princess Diana of the Amazons, of Themyscira. So it's kind of one of those obvious, not so obvious things that actually worked out pretty well in the movies. Or alternately, like if you have a time-traveling Roman soldier, you could name the character something, Latin, and that would give a little bit of a vibe to the secret identity that the characters inside the story may not recognize, but from the outside it makes sense and is kind of cool that it all goes together. Otherwise, you can do what I do and just say, I think this character has a name that starts with the letter R, and randomly search through all the names that you can come up with and pick one at random. Or whatever sings to you. The next category is for superhero and supervillain names for individual characters. This is also known as their cryptonym, or their superhero or supervillain identity. The first thing you can do is just to not have a cryptonym at all. Just have the character go by their given name. There are a few characters that do this. Kim Possible, I would say, is a superhero type character whose secret identity isn't exactly so secret and she just goes by her name, which with a name like Kim Possible, why would you keep it a secret? If you are going to name your character, then I would suggest picking from several of the following different naming conventions and combining them together, because a lot of times that's usually what makes the best combination of character names, is putting things together in a slightly different way. The next and probably most common way of naming a superpowered character is to use the something someone. And this one you can see obviously in Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman. It's pretty common. It can still be used to create a character that is really interesting and a name that is memorable, because it does sound very superheroic at this point, having been used so often before. But just to take note, it is a fairly popular naming convention. You can also name the character something based on their power set or their backgrounds, so that it's easy for characters to identify them by, what it is they do. For example, Gazer Beam from The Incredibles, you can deduce from his name that wherever he points his gaze, that's where the laser beams are gonna go. See? Gazer Beam. Huh? Otherwise, you can do something like Green Arrow. He shoots arrows, so obviously arrows are his thing. So he's named after the thing that he does. Another way you can do this is just to use a noun that your character's whole theme can revolve around. For example, the Falcon. He's got the whole bird thing going on. He's got the wings, he flies around, he's got a little mini falcon that goes around with him. And it's pretty straightforward to identify him with, the shape. For this one, there's another little subcategory that I like to think about, which is also having the word the before whatever noun you're using. And this can be a little tricky, because if you're thinking about it, in the heat of the battle, or if someone's out there crying out for help, do you want to hear them say, "The Flash, help me"? That seems kind of silly, saying the word "the" in front of it. So if you can just say, "Flash, help me," and it still makes sense, then that's totally fine. It's just one of those options that has a little bit of leeway here and there. Another very classic superheroic naming convention is to use what is called a painted noun, or having a noun with some kind of color in front of it. So for example, Green Arrow. He wears a green hood and he shoots arrows. Bam, done. There's also Green Lantern, Red Tornado, the Blue Power Ranger, and Black Panther. I would warn against using, black something to describe an African-American superhero though, or a supervillain or whatever character, just because it is a little bit racially insensitive, so fair warning. Are panthers even any other color than black? I thought panthers were just black. Anyway, research for another time. This is just to kind of steer right directly into the theme or style, oftentimes using, say, the animal that the character's superpowers are kind of representative of. Or you can go a little bit further into a theme, like, for example, Shining Knight from, I don't know where he's originally from, it's DC character I saw in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon. He's a character that's time traveled from the Middle Ages, and he's a knight, so it makes sense that, you would call him Shining Knight. And then all of his theme around the character is medieval, knights and round tables type things. So it kind of fits into the vibe. Another way you can name your character is just by delving directly into the adjective that describes your character. For example, Superman, or Miss Marvel, or Amazo. These characters are really just described by this adjective, and if you took it out of context, it really probably wouldn't give you too much information about what the character is about or what they do, but it can be a pretty cool, type of naming convention style, especially in combination with other conventions. You can also break it down to just single letters or numbers, or even a quick short acronym that means something specific to your character, but maybe the lay person in your character's world doesn't know what it means. For example, in the Teen Titans, Robin's alternate identity when he's posing as a bad guy is Red X. So he combines the painted noun thing with the single letter. So he has a red X on his forehead, and that's his whole thing. Another way to amp this up, of course, is always to add an honorific of some kind. Now this includes having a Mr. Incredible, or a Captain Marvel, Dr. Fate, Princess Twilight Sparkle, Any kind of honorific can turn one of these other, maybe more ordinary type superhero or supervillain names into something a bit more memorable. You can also just straight up steal material for your names from other characters. For example, Thor is the Norse god of thunder, and now he's a superhero. In the comics, it's just, you know, the same guy from the legends turned into a superhero, and he just lives through that whole time. So for that, there really isn't a need to give him some kind of other name, a superhero type name. He just is who he is. But you can always steal from real or fictitious characters if that's the vibe that you're going for and it's enough in the public domain to be recognized. For example, a Robin Hood type character. People can think and realize what that is without too much thought. So if your character is like that, that might be an okay cryptonym for them to use. And I think probably one of my favorite, but I haven't gotten to use it very much yet, is the use of puns and figures of speech to combine things that make sense both as the description of the superhero or supervillain character and also serves as their name. I found one kind of obscure character out there in internet world called dupli-kate, where Kate is the name of the character, but her superpower is the ability to duplicate herself or objects, and that really makes sense putting them together. Because you can still call her Kate, you know, as shorthand if you're on the team with her trying to fight the bad guys, but other characters can say, oh yeah, duplicate, as in she, you know, makes more of herself. And it just makes sense and is really easy for your audience and the characters in the universe to latch onto. And again, you can use any combination of these different tropes to kind of cobble together something that is a little bit unique, a little bit less common, a little bit specific on your character and also to their theme. So it's a really great way to mix it up and mash things together and come up with something new. And there you have it. Those are all the superhero genre naming conventions that I could find on the internet and that I could think of in my little brainstorming session. Do you guys have any favorite types of naming conventions? How do you decide on your own original characters' names? And do you have any examples of characters in the superhero genre that are really good examples of great naming conventions or really bad examples of naming conventions? Go ahead and pop those down in the comments below and we'll continue the conversation there. Thanks so much for watching, Super Friends. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Go ahead and give us a big thumbs up if you did, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more superheroic content every single Saturday. You can join the team by following us on social media or by supporting us over on Patreon, where you can get merch and swag and bonus content, hopefully to your heart's content. And if you want to see my own superhero characters in action, you can hop on over to our website at www.fearless9.com, where you can pick up some books that may just contain your new favorite superhero characters. Thanks again for watching, Super Friends, and we'll see you next week.